when I was a boy.
It feels good to be back talking about Daredevil, but before we even get started, let me just say it doesn't feel quite right being in this navy top. I don't feel like I'm in the appropriate attire to discuss Daredevil, so give me 1 second and I'll be right back. Whew. I think we're back. It's been 2 years since the Man Without Fear has embraced and graced the small screen in his own standalone series. And when Daredevil Season 3 starts, you really feel that. This is a show that you, from the opening titles, you just get that you missed it. You know, when you hear the beginning of that opening title sequence, you're like, God damn. God damn, I missed this show. It fills me with a lot of joy to say that Daredevil Season 3 does not disappoint. In my opinion, it's probably my favourite season of Daredevil so far. It just enhances every single aspect of the last two seasons in every single way. It's amazing, to say the least. The storytelling, acting, and overall filmmaking is all enhanced this season, and it proves that Daredevil still is the essential superhero TV show.
Hello, Karen. It's nice to see you again.
This season fundamentally adapts the Born Again storyline from the comic books. Now, this was my first legitimate exposure to the Daredevil character, apart from an appearance on the Spider-Man show from the 1990s. This storyline is very, very close to me. I love its themes of forgiveness and hope and just everything about it. It's the reason why I love Daredevil as a character. And so when I heard they were going to do that for the third season of the show, I was a little worried. Because if you haven't read Born Again, it's a very dark story. It's very deep, and it definitely plays on a lot of the fears that comic book readers have had about these characters for many, many years. Much like the previous seasons, and this was something that I touched on in my video from last week, this show takes the best bits of Born Again and remixes them to fit within their own continuity. A great example of this is in episode 10, which is almost like an origin story for Karen Page. We see that she's not a drug addict now, but she was a drug addict in the past, which is a nice little reference and nod to the Born Again storyline. And I really like that. I like it when the movies or the shows or whatever take something from the books but don't actually compromise their own storylines in favor of being faithful to the comic books. This is something that I've seen a lot of movies and a lot of shows fall victim to, and I'm really happy to report that Daredevil does not.
Anything else?
New eggs would be nice.
There's a lot of twists and turns in this season of Daredevil, which is something to expect after the first two seasons. And they really work this time around. Unlike the second season, especially when the Hand was introduced, in this season of Daredevil, it really feels like Hell's Kitchen actually hangs in the balance. The entire time you're watching the show, you keep asking yourself, when the fuck is Daredevil gonna win? Like, he gets his ass handed to him time and time and time again. You get to the last episode and you're like, please, for the love of God, please let Daredevil have some sort of victory. It's not like a usual superhero show where like a villain of the week rocks up, the villain says he wants to rule the city, and then the superhero kicks his ass and that's the end of the episode. This season feels like a continuous story which begins in episode 1 and comes to a conclusion in episode 13. It doesn't have, a ton of side stories that, really mess with the structure of the show like season 2. There's no Punisher episodes and then the Hand episodes, but no real link between them. This is really one complete storyline, and I was really happy that they were able to do that. Let's talk about some of the acting and characters this season, because goddamn. I know we should expect it by now that Charlie Cox is just a great Daredevil and an even better Matt Murdock, but this season, even better. Like, I did not expect him to be better than season 2, but he is just out of control this time. It's so good. The character of Matt Murdock goes through this fantastic arc that as I said, begins in episode 1 and literally does not conclude until the very end of episode 13. He's not just his arc isn't concluded by episode 10 and then he's still got 3 episodes to do shit. Matt's character goes through a crisis of faith and he literally cannot see any way of beating the Kingpin that doesn't result in him brutally murdering him.
God murdered all 10 of his children in cold blood. Scorched every inch of Job's land, lashed at his body till his skin was covered in bloody welts. God rained shit and misery on the life of his most perfect servant, and still, Job would not curse him. You know what I realized? Job was a pussy.
Yeah, it's fantastic because you really see a darker side of Daredevil, and it reminds you a lot of the old Frank Miller 1970s, 1980s books, which this show is based on, the Born Again age of Daredevil. And it really works. Cox completely nails it. There's a scene at the end of episode 13 which is just out of control. Daredevil is mean and brutal and it's so good.
You will go back to prison and you will live the rest of your miserable life in a cage, knowing you'll never have Vanessa. That this city rejected you. It beat you. I beat you!
Can I just say though, the one character I did not expect to absolutely love was Benjamin Poindexter / Bullseye. Let me just say, he was probably the season's best character, if I'm being completely honest. This season plays a lot with mirrors and parallels and how if you do one thing, you will become an entirely other thing. And you really see that with Bullseye and Daredevil. They really are 2 sides of the same coin. I love the way the show portrays him as Daredevil. If he makes that decision, if he kills Fisk, he will be exactly like Bullseye. Daredevil is essentially fighting himself. He's fighting a darker version of himself. A version of himself that will go that extra mile. He will kill. And that's a question that this season raises a lot. Is it okay to kill even if the person you're going to kill is a complete monster? And I think it really works. It really, really, really works. Wilson Bethel, so good. I loved every scene with him. He adds so much to the show in general. And you really get the connection between his character and Vincent D'Onofrio's Wilson Fisk. They play off each other really, really well. And you definitely, if you're a fan of the comic books, you won't be disappointed in their portrayal of Fisk and Bullseye. It's ripped straight from the books. Bullseye's entire tragedy is so well done. I would argue it's probably the best character arc in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. The dude begins the series as a talented soldier, and we watch as his world comes crumbling apart at the hands of Fisk. Much like the show's first 2 seasons, the actual filmmaking in Daredevil Season 3 does not disappoint. If anything, as I've said about every other aspect of this season, it's probably the best yet. But this season, there is an 11-minute long take. Those hallway scenes from season 1 and 2, just fucking sit down. This hallway scene is nuts. It's nuts. The more I've been reading about it, the more fascinating it gets. Apparently Charlie Cox did not use a stunt double. So when you see Matt on screen for 11 minutes, that's entirely Charlie Cox. He's doing all the stunts, he's doing all the jumping, all the kicking, all the hitting. It's nuts. There's also this wonderful origin story bit where Fisk learns everything about Bullseye. The episode becomes black and white and we see Fisk become almost like a Augusto Boal spectator. What a fucking absurd reference for the 3 of you that know who Augusto Boal is. No, so Fisk basically sits in on the whole origin story and we see it play out in front of us. And it's really engaging and really, really well done. That is another season of Daredevil. That is another season gone, kaput, goodbye. I've seen it 1.5 times so far. I've halfway through a rewatch. And yeah, I love this season so much. I think it's really great. I think it's probably the best season of Daredevil. Definitely the best season of a Netflix show. I hope to God they do a season 4, especially with the Disney streaming service coming in and the cancellations of Luke Cage and Iron Fist. But I think Daredevil is a bigger show than both of them, so I'm not too worried about them, canceling it. So God willing we get a season 4 so I can do another review of it or another video essay on it. I think it'd be a shame to not see Charlie Cox as Daredevil again. So thank you again for watching. You can subscribe, like, share the review, do what you gotta do. And I am that Robbie, and I will see you very, very, very soon. Goodbye.